You were chosen. It wasn't a letter or a whisper or a dream. It was a force, a pulse beneath your skin, a vibration that shook your very soul. You had felt it before in fleeting moments. The way the air seemed to hum when you passed, the way the shadows recoiled when your gaze fell upon them. But tonight it was different. Tonight it was calling. The city lay asleep beneath a blanket of mist and neon. Streets glistened as if wet from rain, though the air was dry, electric with tension. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed, a lullaby for the unaware. But you were awake. Your pulse thrummed to a rhythm no one else could hear. Something beyond the ordinary had chosen you, and it would not be ignored. You felt it first in your hand. A subtle heat, then a subtle heat, then a sudden ache, as if your blood itself were rebelling. You looked down, nothing you could see. But when you reached for the doorknob, the metal felt like liquid bending to your touch. And in that moment, clarity hit. The world as you knew it was a lie. They had been waiting. You had been waiting, and now convergence was inevitable. The voice came then, not from the streets, nor the shadows, nor your mind, but as a certainty that surged through your chest. You will lead. You will awaken what has been sleeping for too long. The first steps are always the hardest. You stepped out into the foggy streets. Each footfall echoed like a drumbeat of destiny. Neon signs flickered overhead. Promises of coffee, escape, meaningless distraction. But you ignored them. Your eyes were on the horizon where faint sparks of movement danced at the edge of perception. It wasn't just light, it was intention. A figure emerged from the fog, tall, cloaked, features obscured. And yet you recognized the error. Not human, not fully, but undeniably alive. The figure extended a hand, but not in greeting. In command, you were chosen, it said, voice like gravel and smoke. And the time is now. And the time is now. Questions erupted in your mind. Why nay? Why now? What do you want from me? But the answers were irrelevant. Choice had already been made. You had only one path, forward. The figure vanished, leaving only the echo of its words. But as the night pressed in, you noticed the changes. Street lights hummed with electricity. The air shimmered around you, and faint whispers threaded through the fog as if the city itself were alive, aware. Something monumental was stirring, and you were at the center. From the shadows, a low growl. You turned, instinct sharp as steel. Nothing visible, yet the hair on your arm stood on end. You moved forward anyway, because fear was meaningless when destiny called. The first trial had already begun. Hours, or maybe minutes passed. Time felt distorted. Every corner revealed shapes that should not exist. Doors led to places that had never existed before. You saw glimpses of other chosen ones, or perhaps illusions of what could be, all converging toward a single incomprehensible purpose. Then the city spoke. Not in words, but in memory. You remembered things you could not possibly have known. Faces you had never seen stared at you through windows. Echoes of conversations, laughter, betrayals, all weaving a tapestry you had been part of long before birth. The truth hit with a weight that bent your knees. You were never ordinary. A figure stepped from an alley, younger, older, but familiar, a mentor, a guide, someone who knew the rules of a game you hadn't yet learned. You have felt it, they said, the pull, the calling, and you have resisted, but now resistance is no longer an option. They are coming, and they will not wait for you to be ready. You tried to speak, but your voice failed. Only a whisper emerged. Who? Are the watchers, the figure said, eyes glowing faintly beneath the hood. The ones who control the unseen threads of this world. They have been patient, but patience has limits. You were chosen to stop them, or to become what they desire. A chill ran down your spine. Choice? Destiny? The lines blurred. And then the first shadow lunged. Not a human, not fully. It shimmered, a distortion of reality. And in that instant, your instincts ignited. Hands moved faster than thought, catching the shadow midair. Pain shot through your arm, but you held firm. This was not a fight of flesh. It was a fight of essence, of will. And as the shadow dissipated, leaving only a faint echo, the figure nodded. Good. You are ready for the next step. But beware, the deeper you go, the less the world resembles what you once knew. You will be tested, and not all who are chosen survive. You swallowed, heart hammering. You had no choice. Every breath, every heartbeat, every moment had led to this. You were chosen, and now there was no turning back. From the fog, a distant tower rose. Ancient, impossibly tall, its peak lost in the clouds. A single light pulsed at the summit like a heartbeat. You knew. That was where it began. And so, with resolve burning hotter than fear, you stepped toward the tower. The night swallowed you whole. The tower loomed closer with every step, yet something about it defied logic. Its walls were old, crumbling in parts, but intact in others, as if reality itself refused to accept its existence. The light at its peak pulsed faster now, like a heartbeat in sync with your own. You couldn't tell if it was calling you or warning you. A wind rose from nowhere, whispering across the cobblestones. The whispers weren't random. They were voices, faint, urgent, speaking in languages you didn't understand, yet you somehow comprehended. Hurry! Don't stop! Choose wisely! Ahead, a narrow alley opened. Shadows pooled there unnaturally, thick and black, almost tangible. You felt eyes on you, hundreds, maybe thousands, though the fog hid them all. You stepped into the alley anyway. Each movement carried a strange weight. You weren't walking exactly. You were threading through some invisible current that pulled at your soul. And then you saw them. Figures, dozens of them, standing motionless along the alley walls. Their faces were obscured by masks, smooth and reflective, giving back only your own image. And yet you knew instinctively they were not mirrors. They were watchers, guardians, sentinels, perhaps even enemies, or both. One of them stepped forward. The reflection rippled. You are far from ready, it said. The voice was many voices layered together, creating a resonance that made your chest vibrate. Far from ready, yet here you stand. That is notable. You swallowed, forcing words out. Who are you? Are not who it right? What has chosen you? What has pulled you here? Do you think this world is random? That your life is meaningless? No. Every heartbeat, every choice, every scar led you here. A flicker passed through the alley. You blinked and suddenly the watchers were gone. The alley stretched longer than it should have, twisting impossibly. Every step forward felt like moving through a dream or a trap, and you realized the truth. The tower wasn't just ahead of you, it was inside you. Every fear, a doubt, every memory of weakness became part of the path. You reached the base of the tower, your hand brushing against the cold stone. It was smooth and naturally so, like glass. But it wasn't glass. It hummed beneath your touch, alive. Your pulse quickened. You felt the first real tug of fear. What if I fail? Then the door appeared. No hinges, no handle, just a seam in the stone, and it opened. Inside, darkness swallowed everything. But as your eyes adjusted, you realized the tower was alive. The walls shifted subtly, like liquid stone. Shadows moved independently, and somewhere above you, a faint light flickered, still pulsing, still calling. You were chosen, a voice said again, closer this time. Behind you, ahead, couldn't tell. And now you must begin. Before you could respond, the floor dropped away. You fell not down, but through a tunnel of light and shadow, memories and visions blending together. Faces you'd never seen, places you'd never been, events you didn't remember living. They all passed around you in a kaleidoscope of chaos. And then you landed. Hard. The ground beneath you was not stone, not concrete, not anything familiar. It was nothing yet solid. A void that existed only because you believed it could. And there, standing before you was your mentor. Taller now, features sharper, eyes glowing. And welcome to the trial, they said. The trial, you asked. What trial? What trial of essence? They replied. Every choice, every thought, every fear will be tested, and every step forward will cost you. The watchers do not forgive mistakes, and they are patient, but not infinite. You swallowed. What happens if I fail? The mentor's gaze pierced you, then the spark dies. And you cease to exist as you are meant to be. Others will follow, but none like you. You were chosen, do not waste it. The ground beneath your feet shimmered. Earth shapes emerged from the void, beasts of shadow, impossible geometries, walls that bent and reformed. You realized the trial had already begun. It wasn't a single fight. It was a series of confrontations, physical, mental, spiritual, designed to strip you down and rebuild you. Your first opponent emerged, a shadowy figure, indistinct, moving like liquid darkness. It attacked, not with fists, but with intent, trying to probe your mind, your memories, your very sense of self. You fought instinctively. Hands moved faster than thought, energy flaring from places you didn't know existed. Pain shot through your body. Every strike was more than physical. It was elemental, draining and testing the essence of who you were. And then, unexpectedly, you laughed. Not out of joy, out of disbelief, not of pure, unshakable defiance. The shadow faltered. It recoiled as if surprised. And in that instant, a truth became clear. The trial was not to destroy you. It was to reveal you. Hours, or maybe minutes, Past, time had no meaning here. Each encounter honed your senses, sharpened your instincts, forced you to confront your deepest fears, failure, loss, weakness. And every time you triumphed, the tower pulsed in response, light reaching further into the darkness, calling something else or someone else. Finally, at the end of the trial chamber, a door appeared. The mentor was waiting. You have survived the first step, they said. But the path only grows darker. The watchers are aware of you now, and they will not wait. You step through the door. Beyond it lay the inner sanctum of the tower, a spiral staircase winding upward into the unknown. And somewhere above the pulsing light, the source of the call shone brighter than ever. Your heart hammered. You were exhausted. You were terrified. But above all, you were alive. You were chosen, and whatever waited at the top of the tower would know it. The spiral staircase wound endlessly upward, each step echoing in the void. You felt every heartbeat like a drum, every breath a summons. The tower seemed to breathe around you, alive, aware, and unyielding. Light flickered from the walls, sometimes golden, sometimes red, sometimes black as night itself. Each hue brought with it visions, faces, voices, fleeting memories that weren't your own, yet somehow familiar. You pressed on. The first trial had tested your strength, your will, your essence. But now the next awaited, the trial of truth. A door appeared, framed in stone, that shimmered with an unnatural heat. Symbols carved into its surface pulsed faintly, almost imperceptibly. You reached out, and the door dissolved beneath your fingers, revealing a room unlike anything you had ever seen. The chamber was circular, infinite, stretching beyond the eye's reach. The floor was a mirror, reflecting your every move. The walls were mirrors too, but they did not reflect your body. Instead, they reflected your soul. Every fear, every secret, every shame and doubt materialized behind the glass, swirling, writhing, waiting to be faced. A step forward, the mentor said, voice calm but heavy with weight. The truth does not bend. It does not forgive, and it does not forgive, and it does not lie. Only you can confront it. You stepped into the mirrored chamber. Your reflection rippled, then it changed. First subtly, your eyes darker, your posture more rigid, an air of resentment surrounding you. Then overtly, a version of yourself, not as you were, but as you feared you might become, a being shaped by weakness, selfishness, and failure. You must face it, the mentor said, or it will face you. The shadow of yourself moved independently, mocking, circling, testing. Each step it took, a memory stabbed at your mind. Moments of betrayal, cowardice, choices you regretted, they all emerged amplified, distorted. The air became heavy, thick with the weight of your own past. You clenched your fists. I'm not you said, voice breaking. I am me. The shadow laughed. Not a laugh of sound, but of vibration, an echo through your bones. You are what you allow yourself to be. Admit it, and I will consume you. Deny it, and I will corrupt you. Which will it be? Panic surge. Your past choices, your failures, the moments you wished you could undo. They pressed in like crushing stone. But then, something deeper surfaced. Not courage, not bravery, a spark. That spark that had called to you from the moment you were chosen. You raised your hands. The chamber reacted. Mirrors cracked, fragments falling like shattered stars. The shadow recoiled, screeching, twisting. And for the first time you felt power, not borrowed, not taught, but yours. Raw, elemental, undeniable. You cannot define me, you said. I define myself. The shadow erupted in a soundless scream, fracturing into millions of shards, each reflecting a fragment of your fears, now dissipating into nothingness. The chamber stilled, silence, peace, and then the next door appeared. You stepped through. The staircase continued, narrowing now, almost suffocating in its tight spiral. Shadows clung to the walls, crawling like living ink. The mentor walked beside you, but their gaze was fixed ahead. You have done well, but the true test is yet to come. The trial of choice. Your stomach tightened. Choice, you had already been tested. Strength, courage, essence, truth. What could be harder than that? The next room opened to a vast arena. The floor was cracked and scorched. Fires burned in pits, yet the smoke never rose. Figures moved at the edges of perception. Watchers, enemies, allies? You couldn't tell. Then a voice, deep, commanding, impossibly ancient, echoed, "You have been chosen and now you must decide. Will you embrace the power you have awakened or reject it, letting the world continue its decay?" Before you could respond, the arena changed. The sky above turned black, filled with storms. Lightning struck, revealing glimpses of horrors, war, famine, betrayal, death. People running, screaming, lost. And in the center, a figure someone you recognized yet couldn't place. Choose, the voice thundered, and your choice will define the world. Fear clawed at you. Every instinct screamed to flee, yet your feet were planted. The mentor's gaze held you steady. You are ready, they said. You are more than fear, more than doubt. You are chosen. The figure in the center advanced. It was not human, yet it resembled one. Its eyes, your eyes, stared back at you. And in that instant, a realization struck. It was not the world that needed your choice, it was you. Every trial, every test, every shadow had led here to a confrontation with the ultimate truth, what you were willing to become. Your heart raced. The arena shook. Lightning split the sky. The watchers at the edges of perception murmured, waiting. Time slowed. And then you stepped forward, not with a weapon, not with a spell, but with your essence. Every fear you had faced, every truth you had confronted, every shadow you had shattered, every part of you that survived this far flowed into a single moment of clarity. The figure paused. For the first time, it seemed uncertain. And you knew this was the moment, your choice, your power, your destiny. Choose to be more, you said. And the arena exploded in light. The explosion of light faded slowly, revealing the arena once more. But it was no longer the same. The shadows were gone, were hiding. The sky, though still storm-torn, held a strange calm. The figure you had confronted had vanished, leaving only an echo of itself. A whisper in your mind. You have chosen, but are you ready for the consequences? You looked around. The watchers, once distant, were now closer, the reflective mask showing not your face, but countless versions of the world. Each one a possibility, each one a reality shaped by choice. And among them, a familiar face emerged. The mentor. Their eyes glowed brighter now, almost blinding. The final trial begins, they said. You felt it before you saw it. A pulse, rhythmic, insistent. A heartbeat that was not yours, yet synced to your own. It emanated from the center of the arena, where the ground had cracked and opened, revealing a chasm of shifting light. Energy rose from it, spiraling into the storm sky, connecting the tower to the world beyond. This is it, the mentor said, the source of the call, the reason you were chosen. What you do here will ripple through everything, through every shadow, every life, every choice ever made. You cannot falter. You step forward, feeling the air thicken, electricity pricking your skin. The chasm's light drew you in. Memories, visions, and echoes of the trials flashed before your eyes. Every moment of fear, courage, doubt, triumph, it all converged to a torrent of raw truth. Then the final opponent emerged. Not a shadow, not a reflection. Something older, something infinite. It radiated power that warped reality, bending space, twisting time. It spoke, and its voice was the chorus of creation itself. Why do you resist, chosen one? You were made for this. You were forged for the inevitable. Join and all will be order. Refuse and chaos will reign, but the spark of individuality will survive. You trembled. The choice was terrifying. To give in would grant you power beyond comprehension, but at the cost of yourself. To refuse would maintain freedom, but risk chaos. Yet, somehow you knew this. Neither path was truly surrender. You had been chosen not to follow, but to decide. Your hands rose instinctively. Energy flowed from you, shaping the void. You felt fear, pain, doubt, but also clarity. You were more than any trial, any shadow, any force. You were you, the infinite being advanced, twisting reality around you, trying to bend your mind, every moment stretched into eternity. You remembered every lesson. Strength, truth, defiance, essence. The first trial had taught you resilience. The second, clarity. The third, choice. And now, culmination. I am more than order. I am more than chaos. I am what I choose to be, you said. And with that, you released the energy you had cultivated, pure and unrelenting, into the chasm. Reality cracked. The storm shattered. The watchers blinked. The tower groaned as if it too held its breath. Light exploded outward, washing over every shadow, every watcher, every version of the world reflected in their masks. And then, silence. When your eyes adjusted, the arena was gone. The tower had vanished. The storm had passed. Only the city remained quiet and unaware, its streets bathed in dawn's first light. But you knew it had changed. You had changed. The mentor stood before you, now human, mortal, yet radiant. You did it, they said. You chose. You defined the world, and in doing so, yourself. If you ever reach this point, you ever survive it, you felt exhaustion, pain, relief, and a strange exhilaration. The spark inside you, once flickering, now burned steady, unwavering. You had been chosen. You had faced the trials. You had made the ultimate choice. And now the mentor continued, the world will notice eventually, shadows will return. People moved oblivious to the cosmic battle that had just transpired above their heads, beneath their feet, within their realities. And yet, somehow they were safer. Somehow they would inherit the world you had defended, shaped, and redefined. You stepped forward. You stepped forward. Your pulse steady, your gaze forward. The sun rose fully, bathing the city in golden light. A new day, a new choice. The tower, the trials, the infinite darkness, they were behind you, but the spark remained. Because you were chosen, and being chosen was only the beginning. The city breathed around you. Morning had fully broken, yet the streets carried an unnatural calm, a subtle resonance that only you could feel. The chaos that had lingered in the corners of reality, the shadows, the watchers, the distortions, had receded, leaving only faint echoes. And yet, you knew it was not gone. It was waiting, observing, measuring. You walked through the streets, each step deliberate. People passed you, oblivious to the cosmic forces that had just shifted above them. Children laughed, a vendor shouted across the square, a stray dog barked at the rising sun. Life went on, and somehow, miraculously, it felt safer. For now, your hands itched with residual energy. Every cell in your body hummed with the power you had wielded moments before. A reminder of what you were capable of. You had faced fear, embraced truth, and made the ultimate choice. And now in this quiet aftermath, you understood. Being chosen was not about glory or victory. It was about responsibility. A reflection caught your eye in a puddle along the street. You stopped, stared. The face staring back was your own, but different. Not physically, but in essence. Eyes steadier, posture firmer. A weight had been lifted, yet a new one pressed down. The weight of knowing what could have been and what could come. You survived, a voice said beside you. The mentor had followed silent until now. They studied you with a calm intensity, as if seeing every choice you had made, every thought you had thought, every instinct you had followed. A few ever reached this point. Fewer still maintained themselves afterward. You have changed everything. You nodded, swallowing the lump in your throat. He did what I had to, but will it last? The mentor smiled faintly, though it didn't reach their eyes. Nothing ever lasts. Not worlds, not power, not even choice. But what you have done has set a precedent. A spark has been lit. The watchers, the shadows, they will return. But they will have to reckon with you now. You clenched your fist. Power surged through you, not threatening, but steady. Balance. A force to defend, to guide, to endure. You had learned control through struggle, clarity through trial, and identity through confrontation. And now the world, your world was yours to safeguard. Above, the sun rose fully, burning away the fog that had clung to the city for so long. Light spilled into alleys, over rooftops, onto cracked streets. You realized something. The dawn was not just a day, it was a statement. A reminder that even after darkness, even after trials that threatened to consume you, life persisted. And those who had eyes to see it would understand that a new force had been awakened. You began walking toward the edge of the city, drawn by a sense of duty, a need to witness the ripples of your choice. From afar, you could see the tower's imprint fading into nothingness, its pulse extinguished, but the echoes remained faint like vibrations on water. Somewhere in those echoes, new paths were forming. Paths you might one day have to walk again. Memories of the trials came back, each shadow, each reflection, each impossible opponent. You shivered not with fear, but with understanding. Every moment had been a test, yes, but also a revelation. Not of the world, but of yourself. And now, standing in the sunlight, you finally understood the true meaning of being chosen. It was not about who selected you, or why, or how. It was about who you became in the process. The mentor's presence beside you was quiet now, almost reverent. Some will never understand what you faced. Some may even fear you. But that is not your concern. Your concern is this. Maintain the spark, guide the world when needed, and never forget what you are capable of.